As I really began to study the church history and church doctrines and the scriptures seriously for the first time in my life, I began to have more and more questions about it. I thought I was doing what was right. I thought I was doing what I was taught was right my whole life, but it wasn't making a lot of sense to me. Mormonism was at the very core of my identity, and it influenced everything I did. And for the first time, I let myself really think about, what am I basing this on? And I realized that I'd really based it on subjective experience. You're always taught to read the Book of Mormon and pray about it. And if you get a good feeling, then that means it's true. And I began to really seriously consider that for the first time. Does that really mean it's true? Doesn't a Muslim praying in Mecca have that same feeling and use it the same way to confirm that their faith is the true faith? I decided that even if that feeling is from the Holy Ghost, that subjective feeling isn't good enough, because no matter how powerful it is, no matter how much it feels external, it's still subjective, and it could still be self-delusion or wishful thinking. And I very quickly came to realize that there was a lot about church history and church doctrine that I hadn't been taught. A lot of stuff that's very, very clear, looking at the historical record, looking at first-hand accounts and journals about the way the Book of Mormon was translated, the way the priesthood was restored, the way the first vision occurred. All these foundational pillars of Mormonism that, when I really critically examined them and looked at them in the historical context, I learned there was so much more that was not faith-promoting, that was not taught to me by the Mormon Church. And I began to just question, like, well, why was I not taught this? What do they have to hide? It became really scary as my faith began to erode, because I told myself I was only going to accept objective evidence, and I wasn't finding any at all. So for the first time in my life, I allowed myself the thought that the church wasn't true, just as an experiment. When I did that, it was almost like a revelation. All these contradictions fell away, and everything that I'd been trying to make fit all of a sudden fit perfectly. And once I did that, I knew that I'd opened a door I couldn't close. For the next 2 months, I really dedicated myself more than I ever had in my life to the church. I did everything I could to try to receive that revelation, to let me know that it really was true. And it came to a point where I just couldn't keep doing it. I could not keep teaching classes and speaking at sacrament meeting and working as a temple worker while in disbelief. I was completely overwhelmed. I had to just drop everything at once. It felt too dishonest. I didn't feel like I had an ounce of personal integrity going to church and teaching and allowing people to think that I believed things that I didn't believe. I decided to talk to my parents about my issues with the church. And I sat down with them, and I started going through the problems with the Book of Mormon, and the problems with the Book of Abraham, and the problems with the historical record. It was probably one of the most difficult things I've done in my life, but in doing so, it was the most liberating feeling of my life. That I could finally be who I am without having to worry about what the church's position was, that I could finally be honest about the things I believed and the things I didn't believe. I could have integrity, and I didn't have to hide any part of who I am. Leaving the church has been the best thing I've ever done with my life. I've never been happier. I've never been more fulfilled. I've never felt more satisfied. I've never felt more hopeful and optimistic and just positive about life in general. My name is Nick Godfrey, and I'm an ex-Mormon.